there was a question about chanting Om Shivaya Namaha or Om Namo Shivaya. There are two different types of mantras that are typically recited on Shivaratri. First of all, Ratri means the night time. The unusual aspect of today is that it is not a feast day, it's a fast day. And so it is a chance really to, in a dedicated way, orientate our mind toward many associated subjects. One subject will be death. What do we mean by death? Things have a beginning, things have a middle, things have an end. Things have a birth, things have a life, things have a death. Now, it was soon realized that the drama being played out in the individual is the same as the drama played out in the great cosmos. And so it's important to understand from the beginning how Hindus, and when I say Hindus, it means not the Hindu in the sense of any cultural religious aspect, but by Hindu, I mean the basis of Hinduism is the Vedanta. And that's applicable to everybody. In a sense, everybody, of course, is a Hindu. Sister Nivedita said, we're all Hindus, we just may not know it. So it's worthwhile to know something about the concept of what we call God in Hinduism and how it differs fundamentally from other beginning positions. I'm very careful to say beginning positions, because the end positions in every religion is a kind of direct experience. There's an experiential aspect, which means that, as Swami Vivekananda says, religion by definition is realization. Realization of what? Realization of that inner being in you, through you, as you, and beyond. That is what we call Brahman. Now, we can't really conceive of Brahman at all. We can't describe Brahman. There, the mind comes back together with the senses, the Upanishads. And so, how do we get to grips with this invisible infinite? And so, the only way we can do it is conceptualization. We have to conceive of God in some way. So it's natural to start from the world in which we live and in which we move, and we assert God in there. He also lives and moves in this world, but he is essentially, from our angle, a creator. We are creatures. That's a beginning position. He creates the entire world. Now here's the difference. It's not ex nihilo. It's not out of nothing. And so, just to put a small fine point on it, in other systems, the idea is that something creates everything out of nothing. That becomes a problem, because it means that that creator is not omnipotent. It is very limited. And anything that is limited cannot be conceived of as the all, the omnipotent, the omniscient, the omnipresent. These are attributes typically applied to God in every religion. And so what Hinduism does, based on the Vedanta philosophy, is it says, no, that creator is making the world from himself or itself. Accurately, in the Upanishads, we have to say itself, because neither male nor female. But yet we have to conceive of some kind of human characteristic as a natural thing. So after creation, that same being sustains it with his power, rules over it like an all-powerful emperor, meting out justice. All religions will have that kind of concept as reward and punishment, in accordance with the deeds of you, the individual, supposed individual being, at the end of a whole cycle of creation. You're operating within the context of a cycle. You are born at a given moment in time, from our point of view. You live your life, and you end up in the coffin. That's the normal kind of cycle. The beauty about the concept of a cycle is it doesn't end there. It continues. It's an ever-ending process. But if that happens on the individual level, it happens also on the universal level. And so at the end of one cycle of creation, what Hinduism advocates is that the cyclic theory of creation withdraws the entire world order into himself, itself. So in the scriptures wax very eloquent while describing all the qualities of God. He's the very personification of justice, love, beauty. In fact, the personification of all the blessed qualities that we as humans can conceive of. And he is ever ready to shower her grace, its grace, mercy and blessings on his creation, not just us, but the whole thing. Really speaking, the very purpose of his creating this world is only one thing, that is to shower blessings on creatures. What a wonderful way of looking at it. And in this way, he leads them gradually from a less perfect state to a more perfect state. Not just us, all creatures. The whole of nature is moving in that direction because there is no separation in the system. If the Creator creates from himself, then the whole creation is in a sense him. And so just as we have a body also, and our soul is covered, as it were, by a body, the universe is covered also by many, many different things. Now I'm going to bring some modern science in here. I'm going to bring the idea that we can reduce the whole of the physical world to fields. What is an electron? A basic so-called particle. You see, even the concept of particle is there, but it's not true. It's just a placeholder name. So what is an electron? It's an excitation in a quantum field. That language doesn't mean much to us. But now we have to think of the ancient idea of prana, energy. What is energy? Is exactly that. It's a field invisible to us, and where many excitations are coming about. And so we cannot say that physically we're any different, atomically speaking, from the Andromeda galaxy or the stream in the forest or you or I. So you or I, taken physically, there's absolutely no separation. Now the mystical thing is, it doesn't feel like that. It looks like some separation. That is why the whole thing is operating on a Maya, that is a kind of relative understanding that is neither real nor is it unreal. It's a relative world displaying for us as a means to reach our perfection. That aspect of Maya that does it, we call Sattika. And so devotees respond to the prayers, offering prayers. The deity responds. I'm going to just share with you some small episode of Swami Vivekananda's tour of the northern India. He says, on August 2nd, that is when he's back in India, the party arrived at the enormous cavern, large enough to contain a vast cathedral. There are many points within India which are Jyotirlinga, that means kind of indications. Linga means a kind of indication. An indication of light, so a symbol of light. And this is typically in the shape of Mount Kailash. a mound, a stone, if you will, that has in its structure some typical elements to it. For example, a certain square base, a mounting and a certain design, without which we cannot say it's an authentic Shivaling, and it has 3 marks on it. Now, why would we have such a symbol of Shiva? We have a symbol of Shiva like that because that represents the infinite invisible Brahman that we can know nothing about. And in the Shaivite system, Shiva, Brahman, this is the highest thing. It's the same thing. But where we get the name Shiva from, Shiva is really an adjective. We pick it up from the Vedas as a description of Rudras. Rudra, those elements that create sadness. But Shiva, in contrast to that, is some entity that is auspicious by virtue of being able to dissolve our ignorance. And so this dissolution which we experience in our own life, in our own physical life, in the life of the whole cosmos, this is directed and represented by Shiva. But is it just a concept? So there's one place where there is a Shivaling there made from ice. It's an enormous cavern, large enough to contain a vast cathedral, as is mentioned here. And at the back of the cave, in a niche of deepest shadow, stands the image of Shiva, all in ice. The Swami, that is Swami Vivekananda, who had fallen behind, entered the cave, his whole frame shaking with emotion. His naked body was smeared with ashes, and his face radiant with devotion. Then he prostrated himself in the darkness of the cave before that glittering whiteness. Really pause to imagine that. A song of praise from hundreds of throats echoed in the cavern. The Swami almost fainted. He had a vision of Shiva himself. Now the details of that experience, he never told anyone, except that he had been granted the grace of Amarnath. Amarnath, that is the place where the cave is, the Lord of immortality, not to die until he himself willed it. There was also a prophecy from Sri Ramakrishna that he'll die when he understands his true nature. He will have a yogi's death. That is, you involuntarily, it's like putting your hand inside a glove, moving it around a little bit, and withdrawing your hand whenever you want, at will. A person who understands I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, can easily do that. The effect of this experience shattered his nerves. And when he emerges from the grotto, there's a clot of blood in his left eye. His heart was dilated and never regained its normal condition. For days he spoke of nothing but Shiva. He said, the image was the Lord himself. It was all worship there. I've never seen anything so beautiful and so inspiring. That gives us an idea that Shiva, when understood properly, reveals himself to the devotee in such a dramatic way. Now, when a group of people chant a mantra, first of all, any mantra chanted by a group of people with great devotion changes the vibration of the whole environment, the body, the mind, because of the rhythm of it. Now, many systems will have the same thing. Let us take, for example, Gregorian chant. It was Swami Vivekananda who saw a relationship between Gregorian chant and ancient Vedic chanting. He understood, well, there's some kind of similarity. It moves somehow the soul. It uplifts us. Supposing you take a whole night, Shivaratri, Ratri is night. It begins 5:30 in the evening. And it ends around about 5:30 in the morning. And great devotees will not sleep during that night. They will sit there, they'll pray, they'll meditate, they'll do some devotional activities, and they well may chant the name of Shiva as a mantra. The effect of one person doing it, chanting any mantra, of course, will be enormous. The prospect of many people together doing it, a group of people doing it, will no doubt shift the whole atmosphere. And it's to do with the rhythm, it's to do with the meaning of it, because you can't have a word without a concept. First of all, when we chant Om and meditate on its meaning, understand its true meaning, that in itself evokes Om. When we say Shiva, it evokes Shiva. Shiva, the one that is auspicious, the one that dissipates our ignorance, the one that is responsible for dissolving everything. And if we take the Trinity of Hinduism as Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, then Shiva will be the representative of tamas. Not in a negative way, but in the sense of a deep, dreamless sleep, removing our ignorance. Now, there are a few episodes, of course, in the mythology when the deities, the sub-deities, the gods and goddesses, the forces of nature, dharma, struggling between, goodness and evil, that's within us. And the story goes that the cosmic ocean, they were trying to churn. What are they looking for? What is the prize? Immortality is the prize. The nectar of immortality. They were looking to cooperate and churn the milky ocean of the cosmos. Many things came out from there, but one thing that came was poison, which overflowed and threatened the entire world. And even prior to that, they were using Vasuki, the cosmic serpent, as a churning rope. And they were churning Mount Meru. And this great rod, this danda, was threatening to bore a hole in the universe. So they prayed, Vishnu, please save us. He incarnates as a tortoise or with a hard back. And there they use that. That protects the earth. But with this poison coming out, they can't appeal to Vishnu, who will normally rescue everything. So they have to appeal to Shiva. And so Shiva says yes, and out of compassion for the whole world, drinks the poison and saves the world. And it sits in the throat as a blue kind of symbol or sign or effect. Look at the compassion of Shiva, because is Shiva any different from Vishnu, different from Brahma? No. It describes this whole totality, which falls into three areas that we discussed previously, three evolutionary forces, that is Triguna, the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Rajas wants to project everything. Clearly, Brahma symbolizes this projecting capacity. That is, it's symbolizing existence itself. And the reason why we don't wish to die or wish to cling to life is because we value existence. We value life. But Vishnu wants to preserve everything, the embodiment of Sattva, no doubt, and it creates a good way for us to go from imperfection to perfection, and incarnates from time to time, so the Hindus believe, just to restore the harmony. Christians also believe it. The only difference is they believe it happened once. Then what happens? Tamas is there, Shiva is there, and Shiva is a remarkable character, but mainly a remarkable aspect of God, because today we celebrate three kinds of events, as it were, in the mythology and actuality of Shiva. When you chant this Mahamantra dedicated to Shiva, for example, then the whole idea is that we are contemplating the dissipation of our ignorance, and we are making a salutation to that. And the beauty of the rhythm is there are only three aspects to it. There's an aspect of Om, the creative aspect, representing the totality. There is an aspect of Shiva, the one who destroys all our ignorance and represents auspiciousness for us, therefore. And Namaha, that means our salutations. What does salutation mean? Well, traditionally, when we meet somebody, at least mentally, we should make a namaste, a mental prostration to the divinity in the other person and all around. And not only the other person, but every other creature. As we know, humans are the highest creative manifestations of the creative process and the outcome of it. So there is this aspect of this dissolution, this creativity, and so on and so forth. And most of our devotion, most of our effort are toward that aspect. But there's another aspect, and that is Brahman. So there is the personal aspect, the one feature, and there is the other aspect. And the Hindu concept of God that has these two special features depends on the needs and tastes of God's votaries. He can appear to them in any form they like to worship. Now, how do we get the concept of a meditating Shiva? So there's an idea about it. Supposing an ancient sage is there and in the forest at the foothills of the Himalayas. I've done a meditation on this with you previously, with many of you. So looking at the mountain full of snow in the Himalayas, and let us not forget that Mount Kailash is mythologically supposed to be the dwelling place of Shiva at the top. When we do a yatra, a pilgrimage, it's a circumambulation around Mount Kailash and ending in Manasava, the lake which is nearby. And so shaped, we can say a linga, which is a sign, it means a sign. Why would we have the worship of Shiva mainly as a linga, as a sign? It is because it is shaped by, like Mount Kailash, and Mount Kailash, if you go there, you won't see Shiva. You'll see only the indication of Shiva represented by the mountain. And so the linga is a sign that represents, hey, there's an invisible entity there. There's a kind of indication, a kind of pillar of light, Jyotirlinga, a pillar of light which indicates the possibility of realizing this Supreme Brahman, and also the means to do it. Take a sign, and it is the sign that indicates this transcendent aspect of it. Now recently, fairly recently, some months ago, I went a kind of pilgrimage walk. Some of you, one of you anyway, joined me at that point. And St. Columbanus was there, and he makes this remarkable statement, so true. If you want to understand God, first understand his creation. Because looking at the creation, which is a mix of the absolute and the relative, we can see the glory of the divine. Tuning into this glory every moment, and this creation, therefore, is a linga. It's a sign. Now, of course, it represents creativity and creation. It represents the invisible Brahman. It represents also, with the 3 stripes on it, 3 marks on it, that this linga is actually the creation itself, but is no different from the absolute. And of course, we know that these 3 represent the 3-fold aspect of the universe, composition of the universe, the gunas, which are not only the composite aspects of the universe, but also they are the composite of all thinking, composite of all the physics that we have, and so on and so forth, but is also the means to attain a purity of a mind that ends in a revelation. And so this other aspect of God, which is the absolute Brahman, that's the name usually given, and it means something that is infinitely big, means that the rooted Bra means that. Yes, and it's immanent too, both immanent and transcendent in its essential nature. Now, we should understand that this Trinity, which is there, Shiva associated with the Rudras of the Vedas, representing Tamas for us, Vishnu associated with the Adityas, representing Sattva, Brahma associated with the Vasus, indicating Rajas to us. So all the deities mentioned in the Vedas, if you bother to have a look at it, you'll see they relate to these 3 aspects. These 3 aspects are within you also, because you have an impulse to live, you have an impulse to love, and you have an impulse to think. What we describe in shorthand is life, love, and light, in that order, or you can put any order you like, but it's the same thing. So Brahma creates the world, Vishnu sustains it, but Shiva destroys the ignorance of it. And because of that, Shiva is also associated with Shakti. We have seen that this then aspect can represent all of these, just as Vishnu represents all of these, Brahma represents all of these. There's no real difference. The mythologies surrounding Shiva come after the philosophy. The metaphysics comes first. We were just going back to a story that I began of a rishi standing in front of a mountain and seeing there, whether it's Mount Kailash or something else, but seeing there the whole quality of what is being shown, namely solid state, strength, beauty, with the wild jungle around, with wild beasts. And shortly that becomes revealed to him anthropomorphically. Oh, it looks like a meditating entity there. And we know that. Where does Ganga come from? It comes from somewhere up in the Himalayas where some snow melts, a kind of avalanche or spring or some origin is there, giving rise to many lakes from mountains with snow. If you go to a place in France called Evian, where much bottled water comes from, you probably recognize the name. I'm not advertising. But it's because the pure water from the mountains is coming down and simply being bottled. It's the purest water you can find. Clear, pure, good water. So it's easy to imagine there is a yogi sitting there, like the mountain, white, with the water springing from his hair, down his shoulders, being broken. And now you have a mythology about it. And so when we go back and meditate on the meditating form of Shiva, we can catch actually the original idea of the meditator. And that leads us. That's the format. So by meditating on linga and worshipping linga, we are worshipping that aspect which is Brahman. Then by worshipping the meditating form of Shiva with many, many, many symbols around him. The threefold spear, the Trishula, with 3 prongs representing 3 states of existence, 3 gunas, 3 qualities, the capacity to spear all our ignorance and remove it. The snake that is representing life in its aspect of inhibitions, danger, but also representing the whole Vedic story, if you will, or Vedic example, I should say, of how this world it dupes us because we project a snake where in fact there's a rope there. There are many different aspects. The tiger skin, sitting on the skin like a yogi, deep in meditation. The third eye representing the eye of intuition, which when closed, the whole world disappears. When it opens, the world comes about. Unlike all the other deities, there are no royal crowns. There's just nakedness. He is Mahayogi. He is the Lord of all the yogis. So a few stories around that would illustrate the metaphysical aspect of this understanding of Shiva. Well, once Parvati, in a playful mood, closed his 2 eyes, and the entire world was plunged into darkness. That's the story. To save the world from this predicament, Shiva wills a 3rd eye in between his eyebrows, sending forth light, fire, and heat. Imagine now, light, fire, and heat. And later on, he opened this 3rd eye, normally kept closed, out of infinite mercy for humanity, to burn up the Lord of Desire, Kamadeva, the Lord of Lust. Again, when the celestial river Ganga, which was descending from the heaven to this earth, fell ferociously on Shiva's head, out of pride, he just got her locked up there. Only after much prayer and supplication by Bhagirath, who is responsible for bringing the celestial river down to this earth, and he and apologizes to Ganga. Only when he does that did he allow her to stream out. Now you can take many of these stories. This day is not only celebrating all these aspects I've given you, but also the Tandava, that is, the eternal dance that creates the universe, so close to our idea of the modern physical universe that his bronze statue was put in front of the Large Hadron Collider, the largest physics experiment in the world. And so there's a poem that reflects it that I wrote or republished today. And you'll get this idea, this sense of what this cosmic dance means. So just to recap, you have 3 opportunities. One is Nataraja, the dancing Shiva, contemplating on this and understanding it, getting upliftment from it, understanding the rhythm of it. The second thing is the meditating Shiva. And the third thing is the linga. Hadrons, electrons reverberate, flash in field and dissipate. Entangled mesh of misty weave does memorize and us deceive. When we examine what we call solid matter, it all dissolves, and instead of matter we find some vague things, hadrons, electrons, and they're all reverberating in a field, what is called a quantum field. They come and they go quickly like that. They don't stay. How is it that things stay? So entangled mesh of misty weave. It memorizes us. This is what we call Maya. And therefore, It is Shiva's dance that displays us, that mesmerizes us. Now you could also add Shakti, the energy which is there. And that is why in mythology, Shiva, of course, Shiva has to be humanized. So it has to have a household. All the deities have households, has a wife, children, and so on. Shiva's children with Parvati, the Shakti of Shiva, will be Ganesh and also Murugan, or Kartikeya, people know it as, Skanda. Two children are there representing two aspects. Close the eyes, darkness seen. When Lord closes his eyes, universe disappears. Heavy, thick, and dullness dream. Slowly raise the veil of light. Now awaken, see, lift leg and arms to our delight. Create, protect, dissolve away. A hand is there offering protection. Another one representing a kind of elephant or pointing down toward the earth. One raised up like that, leg raised up. So create, protect, dissolve away. Artful dance makes things stay. As long as the Lord is dancing, as long as the rhythm is going, and when you repeat the mantra dedicated to Shiva, maybe this is an echo of this reverberating Tandava dance. A closed arch of flaming cosmic fire, consume, transform, create, inspire. There, on the Nataraja image, bronze image, there would be aspects of fire going on. You can call it gamma rays if you have your imagination in modern cosmology. Legs bent in energetic prance, long matted tresses, wild entrance, entwined within from wild to calm, drumming time in crescent crown. Shiva represents in this aspect life itself, the whole movement. This is possibly why there's a favorite aspect amongst those mystics, those yogis who dedicate their life to Shiva because he is the Lord of yogis. They don't want a crown, they don't want clothing. There is a group of monks, naturally, we understand, the naked ones. They don't find, they're sky-clad, that's their clothing, echoing this aspect of Shiva. Auspicious savior, poison drink. Mythology tells us he saved the world. Release the souls from mortal link. By dance in forest central heart. Forest, the world of Maya. Binding attachments, all depart. And then there's a prayer that goes with it, where we can also contemplate. So while praying to Shiva, we might well say, O Lord, thou art the cosmic dancer and the dance itself. Deceive me not, but thrill me with thy dance. When we talk of renunciation, we're not saying block the world out. We're saying let us enter it and enter into this dance. Make thy dancing ground my heart, where thy calm face entices me to still peace and my blissful base. We can see that by looking at the calm, meditating face of the meditating Shiva. Therein my union is with thee. Just as the meditating Shiva is united with himself. That's the idea about it. So we have much mythology associated with this aspect of the divine. Stories destroying the sacrifice of Daksha, his cutting off of one of the 5 heads of Brahma for having spoken disrespectfully, his destroying the 3 cities built by the demon Tripurasura. These stories we tell to children. But then having told to children, we ourselves being children have to understand what is the deep metaphysical meaning which is there. So let's try to unravel the mysterious symbology, let us say, of some aspects of the Shiva picture. First of all, as I mentioned, Shiva is snow white in color. It matches wonderfully with the mountainous abodes of the Himalayas. Among mountains, I am the Himalaya, says Krishna in his Bhagavad Gita and his description of divine glories. In other words, I am the superlative of everything. And then, while what does white stand for? White, of course, stands for light. And light, of course, as we know, dispels darkness. This is the dark part of the fortnight. This is the darkness. This Ratri, this night tonight, is a night of darkness. You may say all nights are dark. No, this is darker than most. So the white stands for the light that dispels the darkness. Knowledge dispels ignorance. He's a personification of cosmic consciousness. It might appear strange to those who have listened so far that Shiva represents Tamas, the force of darkness and the force of dissolution or destruction. But he's pictured as white, he's pure, whereas Vishnu, who represents Sattva, the force of light, is actually pictured as dark. That's an interesting thing. But there's nothing strange in this, since all these opposing gunas are inseparable. And so Shiva is white outside and dark inside. Vishnu is the reverse of it. And the three eyes of Shiva represent the sun, the moon. You can recognize some aspects within the Hatha Yoga system of pranayama, the idea of polarity in the human body. And Hatha means sun and moon. That represents that anyway. So positive and negative, in other words. And so sun, moon, and then fire, which is the source of light. The source of light, the source of life, and the source of heat. The third eye can also indicate the eye of knowledge and wisdom, and therefore represent omniscience. He knows everything, he sees everything. Inner intuition. It is only by cultivating this inner intuition through divine grace that we're able to see the inner entity that is truly our own nature. And if the sun and moon form these two eyes, as it were, then the whole sky, including the powerful wind blowing, forms his hair. That's why he's called also Vyomakesha, that is one who has the sky or space as his hair. And then, of course, the tiger skin. Well, a tiger is a ferocious animal. A tiger will mercilessly devour hapless victims. Desire consumes all human beings. Without ever being satiated, we don't get any fulfillment from it. It can be compared, of course, to a tiger. And so Shiva has killed the tiger and wears its skin. We can see that from the imagery which is there. In other words, has complete mastery of desire and therefore is a great, great yogi. If you look at him, he's the hippie of the deities, He doesn't care for conventions. There's a garland of skulls that he wears, and he wears the ashes of the funeral pyre. He's besmeared, he smears his whole body, and it indicates also the Lord of destruction. Remember, thou art dust, and unto dust thou shalt return, is a Christian saying. But you see, it is the same mark of asceticism everywhere. And so, he is the revolutionary. He is the Lord of yoga. He's the Lord of all yogis. He's often shown in this way in his deep meditation. He wears a crescent moon. Well, the moon stands for time. Since Measurement of time as days or months depends on the waxing and waning of the moon. So by wearing it as an ornament, Shiva is the universe, the Mahadeva, the universe who is all auspiciousness. And as I said, the Shiva means the one in whom the whole creation actually sleeps after dissolution. And as I mentioned before, linga also means the same thing, is a static thing, a place where created objects get dissolved during disintegration of the creative universe. It is the same deity, we have to understand again and again, that creates, that sustains and destroys. It is not that there's a Shiva here and a Brahma there and a Vishnu somewhere in between. So this is some few aspects of Shiva. And we also have to come back to the original question. In chanting the name collectively, bearing in mind everything that we know now about Shiva, and I hope I have explained Shiva as much as I can. As much as I can means you can't really explain the divine. We can only bring certain aspects out for meditation purposes and also for our living purposes. Supposing you conduct your life thinking that you're part of a cosmic dance, and helplessly so, because all of the electrons that constitute the body are excitations in a quantum field. And that may mean nothing, but we can imagine different waves, different excitations, different oscillations. And there's nothing peculiar about ownership of this particular variety of it called the body, or the brain, or the nervous system. And the yogis knew long back that it's only one energy. And modern science is proving this. Where do we get these insights from? From concentration. The ancient rishis, as far as we know, never had any scientific instrumentations. They never had a hadron collider. It was purely through concentration they were able to do this. They also knew the secret of vibration in the form of recitation of mantras. And by repeating such simple threefold mantra dedicated to Shiva, that's simple as that, then it sets up a certain mental frame, mental attitude. You know, some time back there was a group, they called them Chant and Chai in Dublin, and they chanted many things. Some of them were Sanskrit mantras, or others were mantras including bija mantras, not fully understood. Even Om is such, and many other things. A combination of Christian hymns, a combination of Hindu and Buddhist mantras, a combination of Greek Orthodox mantra, the Jesus prayer, and so on, like that, all beautifully combined, and sung it beautifully, beautiful musicians. From time to time, the remnant of that plays at the ashram in Dublin on special occasions. Now the audience there, or the participants I should rather say, they were enthusiastic about it. It ultimately culminated from maybe about 20 people to about 200 people. And if you ask them, the majority of them, do you understand what you're chanting? They say, no, we don't understand anything. But with some special thing, some uplifting thing about the chanting. And that would be true. But we get much, much more from it when we understand what are we chanting. Otherwise, you see, we could be chanting many things. You know, the funny example I give, getting people to chant a mantra, and they realize that what they're repeating is Coca-Cola. And you can chant anything in a rhythmic way and it will calm the mind. And that is a misunderstanding of what we mean by mantra. Each part of a mantra will have its meaning. Initially, we may not understand it, but as time goes on, we start to understand it. Even a mantra given to you by a guru, we may be strangers to it. It may be, we may struggle in it. It may be monotonous to some extent in the beginning. Now, there was one devotee, and I may have told this story many times. He actually went on a pilgrimage around Mount Kailash. You approach it from China. There are two ways to approach it. Most people come in from China and go through to Nepal and do their very, very hard. Well, it's easier today because there are proper transports that take you there and so on. Many people do it. So it's not as hard as maybe 100 years ago. But he said it was the coldest he ever experienced. Then before he left, he said, "Can you tell me what spiritual practice should I do?" And I said, "Do japa. Repeat your mantra." And he did it. And he admitted afterwards, where before I went on this pilgrimage, I was a stranger. I didn't really fully appreciate the depth of this mantra. Having repeated it, I made friends with the mantra. It became a guiding light for me and opened up the spiritual possibilities within me in an enlightening way. So repetition of these mantras has this effect because they have been used for time immemorial and had the effect of an awakening. Well,
I actually had a question when you were talking about Shiva,
yes.
that by grace of Shiva, grace of God, you open this intuition within you which guides you.
Mm.
And I feel the same, but I don't know. I think I've asked you this question, but time and again it comes again. And it's like, how do you distinguish if this intuition is basically God's voice guiding you, or you are out of alignment and it's coming from your own thoughts, noise, or obsession?
Well, our whole guiding criteria should be, is it something that will move me toward the goal of perfection or freedom, or that which will inhibit me? And it has to be consistent with truth. Where do we find truth? Well, from a spiritual point of view, a philosophical point of view, the truth is in the Upanishads. The Upanishads are the Vedanta, the culmination of truth itself. Also, Vedanta, physically at the end of the Vedas, positioned in this way, but it is a culmination of truth. It creates a transition from ritualism and a concern for this life and the afterlife to a goal, freedom. So any intuition which creates some kind of feeling or action that takes us toward this goal will no doubt be divinely inspired. Anything that doesn't will not be. I'll give you an example. You may have a kind of intuition about somebody. Let us say somebody that you don't know, or maybe even somebody that you met, and you cannot judge a book by its cover, and you say, "Oh, this person, I have a bad feeling about them." Well, who told you have a bad feeling about them? My intuition. All right. But spiritual intuition will tell you that this person is essentially the embodiment of the divine. And when you do that, will it have a transforming effect in you and the other? Yes, it will. Let's take, for example, will it take a job or not a job? A practical thing like that. Well, you wait, and the idea is that you work toward it, And when you wait, you will see either green or red lights, symbolically. That is, if you pursue path A and you get blockage after blockage after blockage, surely something is telling you, don't go along this way. But if you get a green light, yes, yes, it's all green. Yes, 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 all green lights. Then you know, this is clearly the way. The other thing is, the kind of intuition we're talking about requires an openness. It requires a faith which says, Lord, I'm waiting for you to operate within me. I'm just your instrument. I'm a kind of puppet. You pull the strings, no doubt. So, Lord, I leave it to you and see what happens. And so it requires faith to understand the spiritual intuition. There is, of course, a kind of intuition which is more of the physical, biological kind. We can call that instinct. And so that's one meaning of it. But when we talk about intuition, it means in the depths of our meditation, a revelation happened. It means when we sat and connected with the fullness of divinity, something flowed through, not just as a thought, but as an inspiration, a new direction, a creative thought. And if you practice that, you will certainly see the difference between that and your own thought, which may contain egoistic elements. And that would be the telling sign. I thought this. Well, okay, you thought something. What will be the outcome of it? And if you pursue it, what will happen? Will it take you toward your goal or away from it? That's a kind of common sense evaluation. But the deeper intuition will be in meditative thought. Meditative thought, not just by sitting, but meditative thought which comes to you in a daily alignment, a constant attunement. Now, normally, while your mind is not particularly occupied with anything, and you're able to see the reverie of thoughts marching by, like a reviewing officer on a parade ground watching soldiers go by, and you're seeing all your thoughts go by, and then you pick up a thought which is of a creative nature. And that will be what I call your 20th elephant. That will be the matching solution to an ongoing problem, as it were. So intuition requires a period of waiting, it requires faith, and it requires the identification of something sublime, creative, which has a benefit of all in mind, and which takes you with an attitude of freedom and doesn't have any egoistic aspect to it. Well, I hope that is helpful. Maybe it's not.
No, Swamiji, that answers the question. And I think that comes with practice.
Yes.
Like you said, when we are in alignment, we just know.
Yes.
And it's very real. But when we are misaligned, everything just seems hodgepodge.
That's exactly it. When we're not aligned, then we take any old thing and it doesn't work.
Thank you, Swamiji.
It's all right. We have to live our life with a framework that is an artificial framework. We know the framework is the instrumental part of things. And with that, we have to have the same kind of prayer as Francis of Assisi, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. So what am I? Just an instrument. And so your divine glory is flowing through it. That kind of egoism is useful, is good. Making the ego, the sense of I, an open channel for divine grace to flow through. So it becomes a flowing thing. Now the beautiful thing about flow is flow. It doesn't have any obstacles. it goes easily, naturally. It's a question of gliding, not a question of struggling. Well, we leave it there. So happy and blessed Shivaratri. Traditionally, people fast on this day. When but you know, there's fasting, and the main thing really is an opportunity for us to tune into the events. I just want to review, because I mentioned there were three things. Firstly, it is the aspect of the linga, the Brahman, the indication of Brahman. It is to celebrate the cosmic dance. And also there's a mythology which celebrates Shiva's marriage to Parvati. That's the other aspect. And we didn't deal much with that aspect. But what is the metaphysical understanding of it? It is only when the absolute is joined with the relative. In other words, when there is the energetic aspect expressed as the dance. So we can take it in a feminine way as Shakti. Shakti is the other side of Shiva. It is the energetic side. And so that is Parvati. So we celebrate all these three aspects on Shivaratri. Well, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Thanks.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji. Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.